Hey guys, it's Sajjan from Daily Ballers. If you're new here, press the subscribe button down below and click that bell button to get notifications and get notified as soon as I post a video. Today I'm going to go into the NBA trade rumors and which players should get traded from each team. Um, I got an article from uh, hoopshype.com. Oh, hoophypes.com, and they have a list of everything. So I'll put that in the description if you want to read it yourself. So first team is the Atlanta Hawks. First player is Dwayne Dedman. He's a solid center. Um, he's got an expiring deal. He could probably be used for a lot of playoff teams, whether it's off the bench or whether it's a starter, or if it's like for short-term injury case and just many different cases. Um, the second player on that team a is Kent Bazemore, and he has a large contract which the Hawks don't want as they're rebuilding, and so he can be a role player, a 3D player for a playoff contending team, and we've seen how he is um, a 3 and D wing player. Next team is the Boston Celtics. First person is Terry Rozier. I've been going off on Terry Rozier about where he should go. The only place he should go to is Phoenix Suns. Period. Um, and that's because his contract is up after this year, and so he's looking for a new contract, but he hasn't been getting playing time at all. So I don't know why the Suns would not be calling the Celtics about Rozier, since they have had no point guard this year, and struggling as usual to get another pick this year. Um, the Moving on to the next team, the Brooklyn Nets. Domari Carroll. Um, he's most likely going to get a buyout. He's going to be a buyout candidate, but he is on a expiring contract. So I think that the Nets are going to try to get any find some offers for him before they think they have to buy him out. Um, Next team is the Hornets. This is a tough one. Kemba Walker. So Kemba Walker's been their franchise player ever since they drafted him. Um, and so he's never had the support system or the players that can help him get into the playoffs. I think he's only been to playoffs 1 year, but honestly, I think he deserves better. And so obviously Michael Jordan, who owns the team, wants to sign to a long-term contract, but I think there's a possibility he may be traded because they think that they will not be able to re-sign him because there are more teams that may want a point guard, aka the Suns. Um, Next team is the Chicago Bulls. Robin Lopez. Um, he's likely to be released and traded. Obviously, um, he's a veteran center on a $14 million expiring 1 year deal. So um, I would say if I was the Bulls, I would explore trade options. Otherwise, yeah, just a buyout. Not a big deal. Um, next is Next is Carmelo Anthony, but no way he's getting traded. Um, uh, the only team I can see him going to is the Lakers, obviously, because he's friends with LeBron. I honestly don't care where he lands and whatnot. Um, the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now they are in uh, what I call a contending slash rebuilding team. So more of a rebuilding than a contending team, but they have a lot of bad contracts. So Kevin Love just signed a new contract extension before this year. Has missed virtually the whole season. Won't be playing until after the All Star break. Um, and so you know maybe that he's not gonna be traded, but I don't think he'll get traded until the off season when he's healthy and people can you know evaluate him during the second half of the season and figure out what they can do with him or not. Especially Cleveland, trying to look for draft picks and rebuilding and all that kind of stuff. Um, the next team is the Dallas Mavericks. Dallas Mavericks. Okay, there's been a lot of conflictions about whether to trade Dennis Smith Jr. or not. This is all because the 19-year-old Luka Doncic has completely turned the Mavericks into an entertaining team. He's a big, he's a great player. I picked him to win the Rookie of the Year after I saw him play, 10 to 15 games, um, and honestly, it was a steal. Um, yeah, it was a steal to be honest. Um, as far as Dennis Smith Jr., I think that people are saying the only reason why they would put him on the trade block is because his style of play doesn't fit with Luka Doncic and his style of play. But um, you know, I think they will keep him for the rest of the year, and then maybe explore a trade for him in the off season. But I wouldn't be surprised if they trade him at the deadline. So we'll keep an eye on that. Um, Denver Nuggets. The only person I was that they say is Mason Plumlee, and that's because Nuggets don't have a lot of cap room for a long time because of all these deals that they've taken on and deals that they do have to make, such as I think Jamal Murray's up for a extension because he's a restricted free agent, if I'm not mistaken. And so, so it would be ideal to take a could it be? I would say ideal to take and trade his uh, $12 million and $14 million salary for the next 2 years, for this year and then next year. Get a draft pick or find another center or do whatever you can with it while all his value is high while backing up Nikola Jokic. Um, Detroit Pistons. Okay, the thing I have with the Detroit Pistons is you're paying $30 million to Blake Griffin, then you're paying Drummond 25. Now, obviously, we've seen the style of play that has changed between Blake and Drummond, but I think Blake has changed more than of a player than Drummond. But I think for obvious reasons. Um, so Drummond is overpaid for sure now in my opinion because he doesn't fit the style of the NBA trend and how it's getting faster, three pointers and all that stuff. And so they're trying to move him to a team that could use him and utilize him in the right way. And so for that reason, I don't know what they would do with Blake Griffin. Um, if they trade him, then they're going to a rebuilding session. But if they don't, then they are in middle to lower pack in the Eastern Conference. But of course, the Eastern Conference is so weak this year. Um, so the Golden State Warriors, um, they say Jordan Bell is the player to trade. And I think that makes sense because he's not playing this year. He used to play last year, and he's only making $1.37 million. So he's a power forward slash center. So a playoff team could use him, um, and I would be surprised about someone doing that, taking that deal. Um, the Houston Rockets. Where has been Brandon Knight been the last 2 3 years? I never heard his name until now. Um, so he's on the Rockets roster still. He's making $14.5 million this year and then 15.5 next year. Um, so they are trying to basically dump him as a side dump. So essentially, what it means is get rid of his the money that he's being used on the cap space because he's not being used, but he's being paid like he's supposed to be used. So they want to get rid of that. Don't know which team would want to do that, but that's their objective to do for the deadline. And, in my opinion, and also in the article that I'm reading. Okay. The Pacers. Uh, it sucks to be a Pacers fan. I'm not gonna lie. Um, they were a very great team, entertaining team, and then all of a sudden, Victor Oladipo goes down, and your playoff chances pretty much go down the drain. Even though they're still high in like the fifth spot in the East, I don't expect them to last very long up there. Um, and so they have a lot of. Looks like they say they have a lot of expiring contracts. So, and they're saying that Thaddeus Young is their best asset, which I agree with. He's making $13 million this year, and then he's off the books. Thaddeus Young is an underrated player, has been an underrated player for his whole entire career. He's an excellent player, has been a starter before, bench player. He's done everything, and so they can move into a contender or swap him for a draft pick, whatever it is, and then they have all these other players with expiring contracts, so they can start use these assets, draft picks, players to go for next year, where Oladipo could probably be back, sooner or later for next year and build the team again and make another run for the playoffs. Pacers, I would say the other one would be Tyreek Evans. So he's another person, $12.5 million. He's gone back from being a great player to mediocre again. So get rid of him for a pick. Clippers, Milos Teodosic, I don't know his name, but he's got $6.5 million on his contract expiring, and so Clippers are loaded on guards for sure, and so he has no playing time for sure, and I know that because we haven't seen him in games. and we used to see him in games, so I'm not surprised with that. Lakers, man, what's going on, Lakers? Um, okay. Um, the person they have here is KCP, Contavious Caldwell Pope. He's making $12 million on an expiring deal. He's a 3-and-D guy. Um, and he hasn't been doing well with the Lakers, which I know for sure because I have seen some Laker games. And I think he could be better, on a different team. But then again, different team, means okay, is he gonna adapt to that system or not? So you're taking a risk on that. But yeah, I would do that. The Grizzlies, Mike Conley and Marc Gasol. Been a lot of talk about that. I don't really want to get into that because they gone back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So, but I would discuss it later when it starts to come into when it simplifies. So that's one thing. And then the next team is the Miami Heat. Hassan Whiteside and Wayne Ellington. Um, Whiteside would be traded because his contract is going to be over after next year, and his contract is ridiculously big. And they could trade him too. It's possible for like a couple picks. Wayne Ellington, 6 mil. Excuse me. 6 mil, and they don't have they don't have a need for shooter this year, and so his role is just to be a spot up shooter, and he doesn't need the Heat don't have a role for him for that. So not surprised that he would be a candidate to trade for a trade. Milwaukee, Don Maker, he requested a trade a couple of days ago, so we'll see what happens with that. Minnesota Timberwolves, Gorgie Jang, making 15 mil this year, 16 mil next year, and the year after 17 mil. He is really overpaid, but I think someone could use him, and I don't know what team could use him, but someone could use him for sure. Uh, Pelicans, man, AD, that stuff, I don't know what to do, but they got Solomon Hill, which I agree, who's got 12.7 this year and 13.3 next year. Overpaid. Um, he, I think he'll be dumped for like a prospect and a pick or something, but nothing more than that. Um, okay, the Knicks are going to be big sellers, I think. Started with Ennis Cantor. He's on a expiring deal. He's had issues with playing time. He's had issues with overseas. Then lately he's been getting DNPs, which is do not play or not in the rotation at all. So that's one, and he might get bought out for and watch for that. I'm not surprised by that. The next player on that team is Tim Hardaway Jr. And so he's making 17 this year, 18 next year, and then a player option the year after. So he has 2 years, and then a third year if he wants to opt in or out. So he has value for sure because he's a great shooter. Is streaky. He can get hot at sometimes. He can get really cold at sometimes, and so and he can play defense, but his defense is not consistent. So that's my thing, and so I know this league has turned into a shooters, 3-point shooters, league, and spread the ball, shoot the ball, that kind of stuff, and Hardaway can do that. So there may be someone who wanted to, take a chance on him and, keep him for a while, obviously. So wouldn't be surprised about that. And he's pretty young, so that's a good thing for the Knicks. Next team, the OKC Thunder. Um, Patrick Patterson, I agree. Um, he's fallen out of the rotation, and they have no use for him. So they could probably find like I guess a prospect in a pick or something like that. But look for him to be off the OKC roster when the trade market comes off. And um, next team is the Mavericks or Magic, Orlando Magic. Uh, Nikola Vucevic, he's been a great player his whole career. He was underrated when he came and drafted. Um, he's got $12 million on a expiring deal. The Magic aren't going anywhere. They're just not. They're not going to get into playoffs at all. So might as well get as much as they can with him. Period. Um, 76ers, they say Markel Fultz. Honestly, I wouldn't trade him just yet because they have yet to see him uh, to play or shoot or practice ever since he came back from, whatever you want to call it, rehab or whatever. So I would keep him and then see what happens next year. Wouldn't trade him. Philadelphia would just stay pat unless they do something completely ridiculous. Um, Phoenix Suns, Dragon Bender. Um, he was like a very high draft pick player, and they basically take given up on him. So, and he's still young, and but the Suns just haven't figured out how to use him. I To me, he's like a stretch four slash. He can take stretch four, which means shoot the 3 pointer, and then cut and make layups, pick and roll. He's a good guy, who's a good player who's not been used the right way in Phoenix. Not surprised by that. So they'll look for like a draft pick or something. Amon Shumpert from the Sacramento Kings hasn't been playing at all this year. Could be a contributor this year in the playoffs. He's got an $11 million expiring deal. The Spurs, San Antonio Spurs are next, and he has Marco Bellinelli has a 2-year deal, and so he is. I would say he could be traded or he cannot be traded. I would say no. He wouldn't stay traded. He wouldn't be traded, and the Spurs will stand pat. Raptors, Toronto Raptors. So they say Greg Monroe, which is what I agree with because um, he doesn't fit their offense, doesn't play defense, and you know it's a mess. And so they could get some value for him, and another team could put use into him. Um, and the Raptors are in a iffy situation with Kawhi Leonard because he just bought a home in Los Angeles, but we'll get to that subject later if that happens and all that. Utah Jazz, Derek Favors. Yeah, I would agree. He's not a great fit next to Rudy Gobert. I think they need a stretch with Rudy Gobert, and Favors is on a 2-year contract, so it's 16 mil this year. So he'll be on a team option. So whoever trades for him, they have an option of just declining it or picking it up so they can keep him or get rid of him. So I guess risk reward kind of thing, whatever you want to call it. Washington Wizards, my team. I don't see anything that would be happening with our team, but I think the most talked about candidate would be Otto Porter. He's drawn interest from several teams, including the Kings, several teams, so they could get some picks for him and players back for him. But I don't think the Wizards will do anything at all. And that's it, guys. Thank you for watching. Thank you for listening for a long time. I'm sorry the video is really long. I'll try to cut it shorter. Um, Again, if you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Hit that subscribe button, and turn notifications on. You just press that bell button for me. I appreciate you guys. And for those who came back, again, I appreciate you guys. Other than that, it's been Sajjan, and have a good day, y'all. Peace.